It was the middle of January. Snow blanketed the streets of a small town in Ohio. The wind bit through jackets, and the night sky looked heavy with more to come. Sarah Miller, a 34-year-old single mom of two, was closing her shift at a local diner. She was exhausted, mentally and physically, and her fingers trembled as she locked the back door. That's when she heard a faint rustle by the dumpster. She thought it was a raccoon. But when she turned on her phone flashlight, her heart skipped. Curled up beside the trash bins was a teenage boy, barely more than skin and bones. He flinched as the light hit his face. His lips cracked from the cold, and his clothes were soaked through with melting snow. Sarah didn't ask too many questions. She didn't call the police. She saw something in his eyes, something broken, something abandoned. "Hey," she whispered, taking off her coat and kneeling. "What's your name?" He hesitated. "Jacob," he said. She brought him home that night. Her kids, Lily and Max, were confused but curious. They shared their dinner, and Jacob ate like someone who hadn't seen real food in days. Sarah gave him one of Max's old hoodies, laid out a blanket on the couch, and simply said, "We'll figure this out tomorrow." But tomorrow turned into weeks, and weeks turned into months. Jacob was polite, quiet. He washed the dishes without being asked, walked Max to school when Sarah had early shifts. He never talked about his past. The most Sarah could gather was that he'd been in and out of foster care, and his last placement ended badly. She tried calling a few shelters, but they were full. Child services didn't offer much help. And truthfully, she didn't push it. There was something in Jacob that felt like family. Years passed. Jacob became a permanent part of the household. He called Sarah Ma by the time he turned 18. He helped Lily with her speech therapy and picked up extra shifts at the local fire department just to help pay for groceries. He had a calming presence, always patient, always listening. People in town started to whisper, "Why are you raising someone else's kid? You barely have enough of your own." But Sarah ignored them. She knew what it meant to be abandoned, to feel like a burden. And she had promised herself that no one in her house would ever feel that way. Then came the night that changed everything. Jacob was 27 by then. A paramedic. He was called to the scene of a car crash. Routine at first. A middle-aged man had suffered a heart attack behind the wheel and crashed into a street lamp. Jacob worked quickly, performing CPR until they reached the hospital. As they wheeled the man into the ER, the nurse handed Jacob the patient's file. He glanced at the name and froze. Dr. Daniel Whitmore. Jacob's hands trembled. That name, it was buried deep, a painful memory from a file he wasn't supposed to read in foster care. But he remembered it. It was the name listed as the father on his abandoned birth certificate. He requested a DNA test behind closed doors. The results took 3 days. It was a 99.9% match. Jacob had just saved the life of the man who had left him to rot as a baby. The media caught wind of the story. Long-lost son saves a strange billionaire father. It made headlines. Dr. Whitmore, a respected heart surgeon, claimed he never knew the mother had given birth, that he would have raised Jacob if he had known. But Jacob wasn't convinced. Sarah watched the chaos unfold with quiet fear. Would Jacob leave? Would he walk into this new world where he belonged by blood? Instead, Jacob held a press conference. He said, "This is the woman who raised me." He pointed to Sarah, sitting in the front row, eyes filled with tears. She didn't have money. She didn't have support. But she had heart. And she gave me something no one else did, family. He refused any inheritance that didn't include Sarah. In fact, he had Sarah legally adopted as his mother retroactively. "She made me the man I am," he said. "Blood means nothing without love." The next day, Jacob cut a 7-figure check, not to himself, but to a foundation Sarah had quietly been running, a small nonprofit to help teenage runaways find shelter and stability. They named it Jacob's Light. It didn't stop there. The story went viral. Talk shows, podcasts, and local interviews. Everyone wanted to hear from the woman who saved a life by simply opening her door one cold night. And Sarah? She stayed humble. She still worked part-time at the diner, still packed Max's lunches, still made Jacob's favorite soup on Sundays. But something changed. Because now, whenever a struggling teen knocked on her door, afraid, cold, hungry, Sarah didn't hesitate. She remembered Jacob. She remembered that broken look. And she opened her door every single time. And so, Sarah became more than a mother. She became a lifeline, not just for Jacob, but for every forgotten child who crossed her path. Not because she had to, but because she knew what love could do when the world had nothing else to give. She didn't need wealth. She didn't need recognition. She just needed one moment, one decision, to change a life. And that one life changed hers forever. So now I ask you, if a stranger knocked on your door tonight, cold, hungry, and alone, would you open it? Always be a stepping stone to someone's greatness. Would you start today to help those who are deeply in need?